On the podcast this week, I talked to Tim Newton. He is the Group Executive Chef of the D-Mind Hospitality Group. We discuss his journey as an expat chef, what Ramadan means to him, the food scene as a whole, and the types of local food that he loves. Listen out for a story involving a cut finger. Time to rock and roll. Welcome back to the Chef JKP podcast. And on the show today, we have the very, very talented Tim Newton, who is the Group Executive Chef for D-Mind. Tim, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
Now, lots to talk about. First things first, can you tell me about your journey so far as a chef?
It's been a long journey, 22 years now. I moved to Europe when I was 18 to just backpack and mess around. And I found a school in Paris, went back to California and told my mom I wanted to go to school in Paris, and she said okay, and it kind of started from there, from cruise ships to hotels to golf courses, and now I've been in Dubai for 11 years now.
Wow, so it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, big time.
And can you tell us about your time in Dubai, what you've been doing?
I moved over to open a restaurant, a small little one called LPM, and it did quite well. I left after about 2 years and started with D-Mind in 2013. And we started with small projects, and now we're growing into a big group.
And how many restaurants do you have?
So now we have Bagatelle, Oprah, and we just opened Amira.
So it's actually getting, those are quite big names in the scene in Dubai. And can you tell us about Oprah?
Oprah is like my little baby. I'm not Greek, so we kind of looked at doing Greek food from maybe kind of an American perspective, and I think it was a bit more relatable to people in Dubai and the UAE. We have Mumbai opening already done, but unfortunately because of COVID it's been on hold, and Bahrain is ready. And then we're looking at, there's going to be one in Europe very soon. I can't say where because I have a big mouth, so everyone tells me to just keep quiet, and then hopefully in North Africa soon.
Wow, congratulations.
Yeah.
Okay, and obviously people who don't know about Oprah, one of the things that it's famous for, apart from the food, is the smashing the plates. How did that come about?
Smashing plate, that was my boss. He had this idea that he wanted, no one was doing it in Dubai, and I think culture here maybe likes breaking things and being a bit aggressive and then eating and drinking, so it kind of worked out. And with the dancing also, it's a whole night. It's a whole experience, which I think is different from a lot of restaurants in Dubai, and I think that's what gave us a little bit of an edge. And
for those people who don't know, what about Bagatelle?
Bagatelle is a brand that we opened here. It's from New York, American French cuisine, very modern. Again, we have Tuesday night, we have French night, which is amazing. They don't do so much dancing anymore because of the restrictions, but when it opens up, it's a really cool place to do. We have a brunch on Saturdays when it opens back up, and it's a fun night out. Yeah.
And you've just opened a new one. Tell us about that one.
We opened Amira. It's 10th day open, and it's a Greek-Spanish restaurant. It might sound weird, but it actually works. And it's on Club Vistamare on the Palm. But it's beautiful. It's a beautiful restaurant.
And tell us about the food.
The food is, it's since I have a background in neither cuisines, it's just a take on Spanish cuisine. We do paella fideuà, and we do some classics, and then we obviously have our Greek, our strong Greek dishes that we do also.
So you're quite busy, as well as the rest of the openings around the world, which is fantastic. Now, you have worked with some of the best guys in the industry, growing up and then coming through the ranks. Tell us about your journey as a chef, growing up and doing some incredible things around the world.
just a lot of hard work. But I think, as you know, it's affords you the right to travel and see the world and to work in many different places and to meet a lot of different characters. I mean, I've been fortunate with my head chefs, and I think that's one thing that I try to do now is, and I see that you do that a lot with your junior staff in the kitchen, and I think it's important. And I had some amazing head chefs that guided me to where I am now. I mean, they were hard and brutal, and maybe I didn't like them at the time, but I understand what they were trying to do.
And what's for people who haven't worked in the US, how different is the culture, the kitchen culture in the US versus Europe and then the Middle East?
It's a lot more, it's just product-based anyway. It's easier in the States and it's easier in Europe than it is here. Staff-wise, I would say it's probably easier here to staff your kitchen than in the States. In the States, it's difficult now, especially, I mean, I haven't worked in the States in 15 years, 14 years, but definitely more easy here.
Why is that?
I guess it's just the accessibility to staff. It's just easier to fill your kitchen with people. Maybe not so necessarily qualified, but trainable, absolutely. I mean, I've had some guys with me for 10 years now that I trained, and they're amazing.
Wow.
Yeah.
But also, that's also credit to yourself. I mean, they've stayed with you because of the way you've trained.
It's because I'm just such a nice guy.
Yeah, exactly. Now, we are coming up to the holy month of Ramadan. And for you, as an expat chef, how was the whole thing the first time you experienced Ramadan in the Middle East?
I mean, it's definitely different. Obviously, I knew about the Islamic religion, and I knew about the culture behind Ramadan and things like that. But being here and living in an Arab country during this time, it was. I wouldn't say it was difficult, because it's something that you have to embrace. And I love the idea of people having a whole month to spiritually cleanse and find themselves. And I think it's an important thing. But obviously it's changed a little bit now over Ramadan. But yeah, just kind of nicer because it's quieter in the kitchens and you get a little break. So
It's interesting that you say that, because some chefs that I've spoken to, instead of getting quieter, they get super busy because they're sort of Arabic chefs and they're doing their whole Arabic thing. With your menus in particular, does the offering change during that month or not really?
No, we never really wanted to change the core of what we do. For instance, I mean, this year Oprah is going to close for 1 month. Bagatelle will remain open. But we won't do an iftar or anything. And then Mira on the beach, I think that will do well. We'll have shisha, and it's a beautiful, and the weather's still nice. It's a beautiful location.
But you as a chef, do you embrace the local cuisine yourself whenever you're eating out or all that?
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I mean, I love Arabic food.
What's your favorite type of food to eat?
I mean, I love kusamashi. I know it sounds stupid, but I just love it. And mandi, everything like this. It's just sambusek, fatayr. I go crazy.
Because I think a lot of people who have not been to the region or understand the region don't necessarily realize how rich the food culture is here, especially with something like Ramadan. There was huge spreads, incredible buffets, but the whole sense of family is fantastic. How did you embrace that when you first came?
I mean, when I first came, I think I was a bit naive about it. I always ate Lebanese food in London, for instance, big scene there, right? And so coming here, then I met my wife, and my wife is her family's from Yemen. And we would go to iftars together, and I think when you go to an iftar, you experience the real deal, right? So I think that was just amazing for me to really get to the real food.
Wow. And also, Yemen is an incredible country next to Oman. The culture there quite rich. The food. So it must have been amazing for you to experience that through your wife.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, her mom's an amazing cook also. So, and my wife's a chef also. So, so a lot
Double whammy.
A lot of good cooking in our family.
Now, in terms of what's going on, apart from the pandemic, let's say, what do you feel currently is the biggest challenge for chefs?
In Dubai or in...
It could be in Dubai, it could be globally.
I mean, I think one of the biggest challenges is the kids. I think it's hard to find people dedicated to work 80, 90 hours a week and to look at cooking as a career and an art form, right? And I think you have three sides really. You have these naive kids who want to get into the industry to be famous or to be celebrity, and they don't want to put the hours in. Then you have chefs like us who realize what it takes to get there, and then you have just the workers, the guys who are content, which you need. I mean, you need these kinds of people, right? You need that chef de partie to not want to grow and just to stay there and send money home. But I think the biggest problem is just trying to train and get these kids to appreciate.
How do you? Okay, so let's break it down. For example, in Europe, in US, you have the Michelin guide, right? So most professional chefs, I would say, sort of look up to that guide as a standard or a viewpoint to be within that guide. Now here in the Middle East, we don't have that. However, there are serious names in the Middle East. What do you feel is now or has changed with the younger generation of chefs? Is it too much social media?
Yeah, I think it's a lack of work ethic and a drive to get somewhere really fast without having to work for it. And because it is possible to do that. And I think they see that possibility. It's very rare that they would get it, but they see these celebrity status, and I think that's what they want. But they don't know what Thomas Keller did or what Boulud did or Robuchon. They don't know what these guys went through, the hard work they did. They see the end result. They see Gordon Ramsay. You think Gordon Ramsay didn't work 80, 90 hours a week, aubergine, but they don't see that. They see the end result on the TV, and that's what they want, is the end result now.
And do you think, for example, we have, specifically within Dubai, we have something called the ICCA or SCAFA, which are basically kind of culinary schools. What could they be doing to tell the real truth about what it is to become a chef?
I mean, I think they should do the course and then a month out, and these kids go into a real kitchen for a month through the school and work in tough kitchens and work double shifts and stand on their feet for 12 to 14 hours.
No, absolutely, because I think the way that I did it, and a lot of culinary schools do it, which I think is actually quite an amazing recipe, is you go to college 1 day a week, but you're working 4 or 5 days a week, and you're actually doing the paperwork and you're physically standing and getting smashed in the kitchen, because all of the guys who have gone through that schooling seem to have done really, really well. Whereas here, the trend is 3 months or 6 months, and then you go in.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of things that I think the schools and the chefs should be doing more collaborations to tell it like it is.
Absolutely.
Because there's only so much talent that can progress through. You've got the likes of yourself, who is constantly nurturing talent within your team, but what can the industry do to get that new talent through? And as well, for example, Emiratis, Saudis, all of these local GCC countries, because the food scene is massive here.
Yeah, it's huge. There's so many restaurants.
Exactly, and nobody seems to understand that actually we need a hardcore force to keep producing the talent to come through. Now, apart from these challenges, you as yourself, you know, you're a seasoned professional. Now, what would you say is your food? So, if you imagine the film Ratatouille,
Yeah.
and we have that scene with the food critic that has ratatouille in his mouth, and then all of a sudden he goes back into his memories, and it's that scene where he's won. For you, what would you say is your two things, or most incredible food memory, I would say, and your meal of a lifetime?
I'll start meal of a lifetime. I went to South Africa, to Cape Town, 5 years ago now. We went to La Colombe, and it was stunning. I mean, it was just one of the nicest meals I've ever had. It's beautiful. There's nothing, no pictures on the wall, nothing. You're staring at scenery, trees, and it was, I mean, in my opinion, one of the best meals. And I proposed to my wife after the meal, and then we went back a year and a half later, got married in Cape Town, and then took the whole family for lunch at La Colombe,
oh, wow.
which was amazing. So it kind of just had this whole, the meal didn't make me propose. I was going to propose anyway, but it was the right setting and the right, just this amazing meal. Both chefs just had the most amazing meal. So, and then food memory, I say it all the time, and it sounds trash, but I was in Calais in France, and it was the first time I've ever been to France. I was 10 years old, and I had a hot dog in a baguette with mustard and Gruyere cheese on top. And it was life-changing for an American kid to have a hot dog like that, because we just have crap in the States. And so it was this kind of elevated hot dog experience for me, and I always think about it. It was just one of these things. And I think also my palate at 10 years old was not as refined as now. Now I have it, and it's not the same, but it just, I don't know, I don't want to say life-changing, but I think it just kind of, it elevated the hot dog for me.
Well, that's an amazing, I mean, also, what a place to have Gruyere cheese in France itself, and with those, I mean, also the French, they're okay. They're pretty good at making baguettes, I suppose.
Pretty good, yeah.
So yeah, and that's fantastic. And again, going through the ranks, everyone makes mistakes, right? And everybody has some sort of crazy incident. What has been your funniest kitchen incident coming up through the ranks as a chef?
To be honest, I don't think I had that many. I had some traumatic experiences with some, tough chefs, but I didn't really have anything that I would look back and laugh. Broken plates, a lot of, I remember cutting my finger once, and having the waiter took me into the customer toilets, and there was blood everywhere, and I passed out in front of two customers, and that was, I guess I could laugh at that now. Yeah, I mean, some funny experiences, but yeah, I mean, the ride's been pretty good as far as mistakes.
That's a good one. Huh? That's probably one of the best ones we've had on here. I have to say that's probably quite good. How about we always have people that we look up to in the industry that we feel either they have shaped the way we cook or think, or just generally idolize. For you, who are your top 3 culinary giants, and why?
I mean, you got Thomas Keller for me, just being an American. I think just watching what he did, especially with the American team, he's a chef I always wanted to work for, never did, but just a lot of respect for him as a chef, and he didn't need the celebrity. He didn't need that. He wanted the accolades of Michelin, but more of customer retention and things like that. So yeah, a lot of respect for him. Cliche, Anthony Bourdain. I mean, amazing, but there's a reason why everyone picks him and the way he is. I'd say my mother too. I think she really was a horrible cook growing up, and so she initiated me into it. And I think, you know, when we look at people that we respect or idolize, it's the people that shaped you to make you a chef. And her cooking is so much better now. I think the competition set in, but she really let me, you know, find myself. When my parents got divorced when I was 13, and my dad left, and my mom was like busy. She was teaching, she was going to night school, she was doing all this. She'd leave me money, I'd go to the shop and I'd buy food and I'd cook. And it really kind of just started from there. And she was just so, I don't know, proper, like, inspirational woman. And I think that's why I'm here. And I constantly thank her all the time. I think that's why I'm here now.
And how old were you when you actually stepped into a professional kitchen?
Professional, I was 18. And then I was a place in Oakland, California called Stacy's. But I worked in a pizzeria when I was 16. And I loved that. I mean, that was crazy for me. And I really, I like making pizzas.
But you know what? I think everyone underestimates working in a pizzeria
Tough.
because it is tough, number one. Number two, time management, you have to be amazing at it. Number three, you have to be Mr. Speedy constantly.
Absolutely.
And I think it's actually one of the best things to teach you to be a chef, because you have to be organized. You can't just make dough on the sly or, you know, defrost it. I think it's one of the best things you can do as a young kid growing up. Just having a base for understanding all of these things.
Absolutely, yeah.
And then after Stacey's, what did you do?
No, I went to Europe and,
Okay.
and did some traveling, and then found the school. And
Wow. Now, what would be for anyone? Obviously, you know that last year everybody was making sourdough at home. They were making banana loaf. I can go on, but I won't. What would you say to those people who are basically budding chefs and want to come into the industry, or for the young apprentices who are already in the industry? What would be your biggest piece of advice for them?
I would tell them, don't be naive and don't be confused about what you're going to walk into. Because if you want to work in a good kitchen and you want to grow fast and you want to learn, it's a lot of hours. It's a lot of hard work. And you're probably going to work with some individuals that are very aggressive.
Yeah. Well, but it's true. I think, and again, going back to classical aggressive nature that everybody sees. Gordon Ramsay. He went through a spell in his life where he was with Mark Oprah White. At the time, one of the most aggressive chefs.
Animal.
He was an animal. However, then Gordon went through the ranks to have his own place. So first he was at the Aubergine, and then he went to La Claire, which is now Restaurant Gordon Ramsay. He was notorious back then, obviously, for being incredibly aggressive. He smashed out thousands of chefs, and they went through a tough school.
Huge chefs, yeah, now.
Exactly. Whether it was right, whether it was wrong, that's the building blocks of becoming a chef. Has the culture changed? Some would argue yes.
I mean, I think listen, you work for a chef and they're aggressive. You can either be aggressive or you can, I think you can be aggressive and nurturing. I think that's an easy thing to do. I think that there are chefs that aren't nurturing. And I think these are the chefs that you just stay away from and you just kind of get into that. But aggressive breeds aggressiveness, I guess. And it should.
But at the same time, I think it's also, quite rightly what you said, it's about the nurturing. And I think what people don't seem to see is that during service is service. And guests are paying a huge amount of money, they have expectation, so you have to deliver that, number one. Number two, after service is what you don't see. When the chef, who is a nurturing kind of chef, has a chat with their guy or girl who made the mistake during service, you have a beer together and you say, listen, do you know what you did wrong? how can we improve on it? And I think a lot of people don't see that. With Gordon, he's actually like that. He has a chat after what service is, and what people don't seem to understand is that being a chef is kind of like being in a hardcore army. You know, if you're going to become the elite, top of the top, you know, what people also don't seem to realise is that when you're in a league kind of in Dubai where you've got 12,000 restaurants and you're competing at that level, you have to be at Formula One.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
And to be at that level, you can't be Mr. Nice Guy constantly. People make mistakes, you know, and people's jobs are on the line here a lot of the time.
Especially now.
Especially now. So, yes, you are going to face aggressive chefs. However, they do nurture some incredible talent, and it's just how to go about it. But I don't think people give enough credit to, because being a chef is also about being a trainer, being HR, man management.
I mean, you're a teacher.
Exactly.
Right? You're a teacher.
Exactly. Exactly. You're a teacher. You're a coach. I mean, people don't see that. And also don't forget it. The same thing happens in a football team, in a soccer team, in a rugby team, in a baseball team. The same thing happens. You just don't see it.
And they're only happy when they win.
Exactly.
So, and that's it, right? A successful restaurant, no matter the means you get there, everybody will be happy if the outcome is positive.
And Tim, I don't need to tell you, to run a single restaurant in Dubai and be successful is no mean feat. I don't think people understand that. And for someone like yourself who's running multiple outlets is also a huge thing, right?
Yeah, it's tough. Good team though. I have a solid team behind me.
And that's the key, I think, also. It's just to have people who you can really trust. Now, if people want to sort of see what you're up to and what you're doing in the different types of restaurants, where can they do that?
You can just come into the restaurant, or we have Amira online on Instagram. We have Oprah on Instagram. We have Bagatelle. I have my own Instagram, Chef Tim 420. You can go on there. I'm not as active as I would like to be, but I do put things on there and update what we're doing at the times. Amazing.
So look, I'll just recap. First of all, about your journey, and you started super young, which was incredible. Then your trip to Europe, working for some amazing chefs. Then coming into the region, understanding what Ramadan is, embracing it, because a lot of people don't really seem to understand what it is. Menu development during Ramadan, some chefs do, but for you kept true to the concept. Biggest challenge for chefs in the industry, and it is training and retention. Then your food memory is really incredible, and I think I love that France is the place. Gruyere cheese, all of that I think is fantastic. Meal of a lifetime in South Africa is also super cool, and the fact that your wife is a chef is really, really amazing. Funniest kitchen incident, sliced finger passing out in front of two guests. That is brilliant.
It was not funny then.
The culinary giants, all incredible, and your mother should always be there, or grandparents, always. The advice, I think, I 100% support and agree with what you said, because people need to understand and realize what it takes to become a professional chef. It's not, you can't just have overnight success. Absolutely not. It doesn't work like that. And plus all of the social media, which I will put in all of the show notes. So, Tim, on behalf of the Chef JKP podcast, it has been absolutely amazing to have you on. Really, the very best of luck with all of the projects that are happening. Thank you so much for coming onto the show.
Thank you, James. I appreciate it.